guys, welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and today on the podcast we have Kyle Cooke and Amanda Batula from Summer House, from Winter House. Season 2 of Winter House premieres tonight on Bravo at 9 p.m., and it's a fun premiere, and it's fun because there's a lot of the same people, but there's also some new faces, some returning faces that weren't on Summer House, but were on last season of Winter House, so it's a nice mix, and there's as it's been the past year or two with these shows, there's a couple threads that we're following, and Lindsay and Carl aren't full-time on this show, but they do stop by at some point. Austin comes after the first episode. So it's fun to get some time with Kyle and Amanda. I've interviewed them together a bunch of times over the years at this point, and they are really great in interview setting. And, we talked a lot about them coming into the season for the first time filming as a married couple and how that changes things for them mentally and also just the dynamic. We talked about sort of the fan-driven narrative of the number one couple on Bravo and the Paige and Craig and Lindsay and Carl of it all and sort of how they're all thinking about that. And then I also kind of at the end, I got into sort of, Kyle turned 40 earlier this summer and they've been on the show for coming up on 7 years. And, they have dogs now, which is kind of priming them to think about, okay, when do we have kids? And how does that all play into how they view their future on Summer House and Winter House and sort of filming their lives for everyone to watch? And they had some, I think, really good perspective on that, and I liked talking about that with them. But yeah, it was a great interview, and again, Winter House is a fun watch. It's messy, it's chaotic, but it's a quick hit, and again, I think it's fun checking in with them in the off season. Keep listening for my interview with Kyle Cooke and Amanda Batula from Winter House. Tune into the Winter House season 2 premiere this Thursday at 9 p.m. on Bravo, and please rate, review, and subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we're here with Amanda Batula and Kyle Cooke from Winter House, Summer House, the faces of Loverboy, whatever you want to say. They're back on We Should Talk. How are you guys?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. Are you guys ready?
You're season 2 of Winter House. Wait, what show?
I'm like, where are we in the year right now? Are you guys? You must feel like you're on TV almost all year these days.
Yeah, it's either we're filming or we're airing is kind of what it feels like, with very little downtime in between.
Yeah, I think because the first cycle of Winter House kind of worked its way through, and I think there was maybe 1 month in the last 12 where I wasn't filming something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you thinking back to what happened during filming of season 2 of Winter House? Are you ready for that to all play out on TV?
Listen, it's a 2-week vacation, okay? We're not working, we're drinking. It's all kind of a blur. So I'm more interested to watch it play out, to, recall everything that happened.
Yeah, I would literally say the same thing. I'm like, yeah, take me back to the last weekend of February, because I was physically there.
Right. So we're going to be reminded of things as it plays back. But this was your first time filming a show while married, right? Because last season Summer House was your wedding was the finale. Does that, and we talked a little about it in the premiere, but does that feel different? Does it feel at all like a different kind of ball game for you guys?
It was a weight lifted off our shoulders. The planning, it was a whole thing. We could talk about the wedding nonsense and the stress and tension and anxiety from it, but the fact that the planning is done, I'm sad the wedding's over, but the fact that the planning is done, I just feel like we're back to being us, the people that we were when we first started dating or when we first got engaged, where there was no pressure. So we were really just able to enjoy ourselves and be us again.
Yeah. It's not like we were ever straying from who we were. I don't think we ever were
us as a couple, in love again.
Yeah. I look, when we went in, it was the first time I had this carefree attitude in the longest time. Right. Cause even if we're in a good place, when you go into these previous seasons, we just know, hey, normally we'd be, on the weekend, probably in the city or in New Jersey planning the wedding, but we're filming in the Hamptons. And it was just a carefree kind of mindset that I haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, because there's no more will they make it? Will they won't they? Right. It's I feel like that was the the narrative that was sort of being pushed on you guys a little bit, even just from viewers who kind of doubted, you know what I mean? And so you must feel like we made it, and there's no looking back, and we got to that point.
Yeah. It's if we did it just to prove something, that would be a very huge, terrible mistake.
Of course, that's not the reason, but of course, it's not the reason. But like, you must feel some.
But that's how it feels. It's like, I want everyone to pay up that place their bets that we wouldn't make it a year, because we did.
Yeah.
So
well, I also think
whoever bet against us owes their friends some money.
And look, we've, particularly me, we've given people reasons to doubt. And I think the previous season of Summer House, it was tough to watch. We didn't watch it together because it was just like, man, like it actually felt worse watching it than it did in the moment, because filming, and then when you have everyone around you, it just actually starts to make things feel worse than it is.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, right? But watching it back, we were obviously already married. And I was just like, oh man, I didn't remember how bad it was.
That must have been one of the hardest things to do, because you were already married, but like you're reliving those last months. Like that must not have been fun. But
yeah, I didn't watch.
Yeah,
that's
smart,
Amanda.
particularly.
Yeah.
And it was airing while we were filming Winter House. So we were like, right, screw that. We're not even paying attention.
I love that. That's a good mentality. And Amanda, in the premiere, you say that you think that part of Kyle's sort of like a little bit more relaxed demeanor, and I say a little bit, it's that we're still Kyle, we're still Amanda, but it's part of that you guys have new dogs, and it's sort of like you're looking after beings, and it sort of softens you a little bit. Kyle, do you agree with that sort of changed your demeanor a little bit?
I mean, look, whether it's a dog or a kid, I mean, once you quickly realize it's not all about you, like the world doesn't revolve around your work play schedule, it's a pretty good wake up call. It's kind of grounding. It's
actually been really fun to watch Kyle just become more patient with the dogs and with me, and just anything in his life. When the puppies would have an accident, was more overwhelming for him, and he'd get more stressed out about it. And now he just handles it differently. Everything is just handled differently.
Yeah. Now I'm like, hey, let's get a white rug and see what happens.
Is it practice for kids? Is that kind of how you can think about it?
That wasn't the plan, or that wasn't like the intention behind getting the dogs, but it definitely makes you realize, A, we're not ready in this moment to have children. And B, like it's a lot of responsibility and a lot to think about other than yourselves. I mean, even just going out at night or to dinner, we got to go home. We got to do this. Have you fed the dogs? Like it just helps put things into perspective. And I think it will ultimately help us.
Yeah. In a weird way, I almost looked at it not necessarily as practice, but it's like, all right, we're not ready for actual kids, but we want something else in our life.
Totally.
And this was like it was, I don't know. It's just like, it's fun to have something that is naturally just so, I mean, we're both caring for these two dogs who are right by our sides right now because they can't leave us. And yeah, it's fun to have like that commonality.
And it brings you together in a new way that you haven't had before, which must feel nice.
It gets me out of the apartment at least 3 times a day for walks. We get to go on walks together and do stuff together. And it is really nice.
Mm-hmm. So on the premiere of Winter House, we see that it's not you that are the first to arrive at the house. It's Paige and Craig, which, it's a little thing, but it feels kind of like a telling change that you guys aren't the first one to be there to pick out the main bedroom. Did you, I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel any type of way about that? Because I feel like there's this sort of fan driven narrative about like the different couples on the show, and there's a little competition.
I think, there other people deserve to be in the spotlight. I don't want it to be about us that much anymore. I'm happy like taking a back seat and giving my opinion. But I think, I love watching Paige and Craig together and seeing them as a couple and watching them fall more and more in love. So it totally makes sense why like other people would want to see that. We also knew, I told Kyle, I was like, we're not getting the primary bedroom. We're giving that up and you're going to be okay with that.
I wasn't going to come and make a stink. You got to keep in mind, like the bedroom that we were in the first season was not a bedroom.
That's true.
It was literally in the basement with a temporary wall and a bed.
That was bleak. That was bleak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a light sleeper. I hate to make it about that, right? But for me, it's not about like hierarchy or seniority. I'm literally like, I just need to be able to sleep. And so I was gunning for Craig's bedroom in season 1. Like that was what I wanted. That's what we got.
All right. So we don't feel any sort of way.
And we got paid to take it.
there we go. Yeah. Literally, he shelled out the big bucks for you. That was insane. That was wild.
I was like, I don't know what to do with this.
Where is that money, by the way?
I don't know. It's in a bag somewhere.
But I mean, there definitely is this thing, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, which is like when, around last season of Summer House, when, Paige and Craig had just gotten together, Lindsay and Carl, everyone knew they were together, but they hadn't gotten together on the show yet. There was this sort of like, again, a fan-driven thing that like, Paige and Craig wanted to be the number one new couple on Bravo. And then like Carl and Lindsay sort of stole the thunder a little bit. And that's sort of what the narrative is sort of has been. What do you guys make of that? Because obviously you guys don't think of it as sort of some sort of hierarchy.
No, I think it's wild. I think the way that like fans just like hit us against each other. It's like two people, Paige and Craig from two different shows it might be like the first cross show couple on Bravo, which is just a very fun, exciting thing for the fans. That's awesome in and of itself. And then you have a completely different relationship of two people on the same show that have gone through the ups and downs of trying to be together, their friendship, and now their couple. No, Carl and Lindsay. And that's exciting in and of itself. I don't think there has to be like a number one couple. I think it's two different relationships. And I think it's exciting for both of them in different ways. And not one has to be better than the other. And I think people also feel like we have some sort of jealousy, but oh my God, I'm relieved that
if we could have had couples in the house all along on both of our shows, A, it would have been making for better television because there'd be more drama. And B, we would feel like we were like there was less weight and less pressure. Look, this is how we feel, right? Like, I don't think that there's like this like push to be number one. Quite frankly, if you're the number one couple, then you're just positioning yourself to be toppled over.
You're hiding something. Your walls are crumbling down.
Yeah.
But it does make me sad how we, everyone just assumes we're all like so jealous and envious and wish the worst for one another when, we're just happy that each other is happy in their respective relatips. And
it's tough to find love when you're bearing it all on TV. Yeah. So maybe that's why they're all finding each other.
I mean, they have a similar experiences in life for sure, but it's also like, if anybody looks at your guys' experience on Summer House for the past 6 years or so, like it hasn't always been, like butterflies and rainbows. Like, so and you've been that's because you're the central couple on that show and you have been for so long. So like, again, it must feel nice to like not have that, like you said, a weight on your shoulders a little bit.
It's definitely nice to be like, let's have a look inside someone else's relationship.
Exactly. Like, bye. but Kyle, in this first episode, like we do kind of get hints of you and Craig having a little bit of like a tension. Like you kind of say that it's kind of his head's getting a little big, or that's how it's sort of being how we're seeing it. Are we going to see more of that as this 2 weeks goes along? Like, does that sort of build up into something?
I think in this first episode, which actually, full disclosure, I've been working my butt off, didn't have a chance to watch it. We're trying to say the funniest, most random things that come to our mind when we do these interviews. And I'm just giving Craig a hard time, just like he'd give me a hard time. I think initially there was probably an adjustment period because he's actually filming in a relationship, sharing a bedroom, literally for the very first
And
time.
he
I'm
just
like,
came off of Southern
yeah.
Charm.
And I'm like, and they just came off Southern Charm. I think there was just things needed to settle, and things did settle. And we had an amazing, vacation.
Also, Kyle and Craig, there's a lot of similarities between the two of them. So they tend to either butt heads or like mesh really well and have an amazing time together. So it's, I think any tips that they get into is
we'll butt heads
all in
over
love.
like the trash.
Yeah.
Like,
Right, totally.
it's not
Yeah,
like
that's what
ego
sets
on
it
ego.
off.
Yeah.
Totally. But you don't want people to read into like any comment you make as sort of indicating some bigger feeling about it. You know what I mean?
No, like I said, the beauty of this show is you catch every little comment, right? And you can kind of like extrapolate and read between the lines. But no, I got nothing but love for the guy.
Mm-hmm. We also have several new faces or several returning faces too in this group, and also some people who aren't around as much this season than they were last time. What can you tell me about sort of how this group this year differed from last year's Winter House?
This group meshed really well. Everyone was there to have fun and to just enjoy themselves and have a good time, like just exist, get away from like their day to day, take a break from reality. It's a weird thing to say, but I think that's
I know what you mean.
Kind of why people were looking forward to going to Vermont, and everyone was there to have a good time. I think that in the past there's been like more tension, or there's been, conversations that need to happen, or, unresolved issues. But this year, everyone coming in was just like, let's just enjoy ourselves and see what happens.
I have a slightly different take, just in the sense I was in such a different place. The first season I was coming in, I only had like 5 employees. We were in this crazy expansion period in lockdown. And I was literally in a lawsuit. Like the list went on. And on the flip side, you had these new romances that were like super fun to watch, that didn't necessarily carry through to season 2, right? So people were in different places. We also kind of knew what we signed up for, right? So it was a little easier to pace yourself. Like I went way too hard in the paint season 1. By like night 4, I'm like, yo, I don't think I can do this.
Shampoo effect every day.
But yeah, I think just there was a nice contrast. Like it doesn't feel like it was just a repeat of season 1, which I think the viewers are going to appreciate.
Yeah, but Corey brought a lot of energy.
Yeah,
he was great. Sometimes a little too much energy, but that's why we love Corey. Rachel is just an absolute like doll of a human. She's the coolest. She's funny. She's sweet. She's a firecracker. And then there's Jess, who's just, you honestly, like sometimes you just don't know what's going to come out of her mouth or what you're going to get from her, but it was pure entertainment the whole time.
You pointed out that she does sort of look like a little bit like Lindsay. There's definitely a lot of similarities. Is the personality also similar?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. But since the pandemic, I've needed to get glasses for distance. And when I tell you, she walked down the hallway and I would have to look like 3 times to be like, wait, is that Lindsay? It was throwing me off. It was scary. I don't think she likes that comparison very much.
I never saw it. And I need glasses too.
Even Jason saw it. A ton of,
they give us a side-by-side in the premiere that well, as you're saying it, Amanda, I'm like, oh, like I see what you're getting
like,
at.
They don't look like twins. They look just, they're related. Yeah.
Yeah. And without Lindsay around. Yeah, exactly. So, but speaking of Lindsay and Carl, they show up eventually. Austin shows up eventually. And I think that those things will kind of remind people of what happened the first season of Winter House and last season of Summer House. When is that going to just sort of like get buried? Like, when are we going to kind of move on from the Austin, Lindsay
season 7 of Summer House
after Vermont? After Vermont, I think we'll be done.
Yeah, look, I think it was inevitable.
Yes.
We all hadn't really been together again. I'm glad people had a chance to kind of talk it through. it's just the nature of, again, we're always either filming or it's airing and we're all coming together again. Sometimes you just gotta hash these things out.
I agree. And it's also, I mean, it's our first season with you guys as a married couple, but it's also our first season with Carl and Lindsay fully together. So it's, I guess there is sort of some wrapping up that needs to happen. What was going on before.
Yeah. I'm sure Carl's like, yeah, let's just, I don't know what he was thinking going in, but like, I'm sure he's just like, yeah, if we need to address anything, now's the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they got to come in and then just leave. That's like the dream.
So they got off a little scot-free. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm
They
getting.
were like, hey, we're here. Let's squash this shit. Now we're out. And then we're all like,
hey, mission accomplished, right? Take me with you.
Yeah.
So we obviously also have another season of Summer House that you guys have filmed, and we'll follow the season of Winter House. Kyle, you turned 40, which is the big 4-0, and I'm sure we'll see how that all goes down. I'm wondering, like, if you guys and Amanda, in this first episode of Winter House, we also hear you talking a little bit about like fertility and sort of that journey that you're on. Do you think about like what the next several years, 5 years looks like, or if you bring kids into the picture, like, can you still do Summer House, or like, how do you think about your guys' future as it comes to these shows?
I'll just make a comment here, even when it comes to dogs, right? Sorry for the comparison, but like, our show's unique in the sense that it's all encompassing. Nothing goes missed. There's surveillance, right? But these other shows are very scene based. So you can have your dog, you can have your kid, and you go back to them. It's a good question. I think that for us to take on any more responsibility and continue to film, we'd probably have to find some way for the concept to evolve.
Yeah, I think it's the show can continue on with like its, based off of its roots, which is a bunch of people partying in the Hamptons every weekend. Or it can evolve with all of us, especially Craig and Paige getting more serious, Lindsay and Carl being engaged, us being married, there, Danielle and Robert in a serious relationship. It could happen. Will it? I don't know. But in its current state, no way. I wouldn't even want to be pregnant in the house with the chaos.
I can't even imagine how that would go down.
And the ruckus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't sleep now. No way I would be able to sleep then.
Yeah. And I mean, my whole thing is, I'll just add that like, there's plenty of show. Like everyone loves like random hookups, or like I was saying, season 1 of Winter House, you had like the new romances. People love that stuff. But there's also like 1,000 shows about like random hookups. A stranger in a hot tub with another stranger. Like I've been there. I've done that. So look, I'd love for us to be able to continue to kind of share our lives as our lives evolve.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've kind of wanted for you guys at some point, not now, but like, I would love to follow you guys' lives in New York, not in the summer, and have it be, I mean, like you said, Carl, sort of that other formula of reality show that we're used to watching. Because I feel like at this point, we're also invested in your guys' lives, and it's more about the people, the characters, however you want to say it, versus the concepts. I think they could both work separately.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I'm excited for everyone to see Winter House. Kyle, I'm excited for you to see Winter House. You clearly haven't watched the premiere. But
I'll watch it by Thursday night. Will we see you?
Yes, I'll be at the premiere party. Yeah. And I don't know, it's just a fun show. It's a fun show to watch, and it's fun to check in with you guys sort of off season. So thanks for taking the time today, as always.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to We Should Talk. I hope you enjoyed the interview. You can find out more about In the Know at intheknow.com. You can follow me, Gibson Johns, at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our interviews, past and future, by searching We Should Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Hope to see you next time.